Most people think of environmental art as something new, a 20th century art movement without much precedent.
Actually, people have always made environmental art, but they didn't call it art. In times past, it was for religious, ritual, or other purposes.
People have been creating art from their environment since the beginning of time.
Where are these large stones from? They seem to be in the middle of nowhere.
Monumental stone arrangements like these are found all over England and Ireland and on the coast of France.
But are they very old?
Most of them are between 4,000 and 5,000 years old.
How could they move such huge stones without modern machinery? They must weigh from 10 to 20 tons each.
It is amazing. Some are 25 feet high and come from quarries as far as 200 miles away. So it shows you that these people were very determined to create a permanent monument. Many of the stones were sacred with magical power, and some people still think today that these stones can cure diseases or promote fertility.
These monuments then go back to prehistoric times.
Yes. Well, people have been creating art from their environment since the beginning of time.
They seem to be using just the stones and the natural hills of the landscape.
I think most people have seen images in the natural environment and called them special names, and even worshiped them and dedicated markers such as stones to show how special that particular place is, or sometimes to determine from the position of the sun and moon when to plant or harvest, or even when to celebrate or rest.
But these stones were arranged by a modern environmental artist, Richard Long. He places stones in circles or lines. Sometimes he just kicks them into a shape, and sometimes he just walks until a path is worn into the grass. This seems to be in the city.
Yes, this is Carl Andre's environmental project in Hartford, Connecticut. You can see that he uses the same concept as the prehistoric monuments, but adjusts it to this particular space, beginning with one large stone, then two small stones, and so on to make a special place out of this odd-shaped plot of earth and to relate it to the cemetery nearby.
There's a real pattern that you become aware of as you walk through. There are 36 boulders altogether, in 8 rows, and they increase in size as they decrease in number and in spacing.
They were also chosen for their color and texture.
This vast enterprise is an interaction of sculpture, architecture, design, and environmental art.
It's a complex of projects that grow out of Herbert Bayer's design of the Aspen Institute for Humanistic Studies in Colorado.
Bayer was quite a remarkable artist. He grew up in Austria and was responsible for the famous Bauhaus workshops in graphic design and typography until the Nazis took power.
With his background, he was easily successful in New York as a commercial artist and then in Aspen as a painter, architect, and designer.
There's one section in this enterprise known as the Earth Mound, probably the first environmental art of the 20th century.
That was constructed as an intimate enclosure where one could contemplate, read, or just rest, hidden away from the surrounding public space.
Notice how the ring of molded earth forms a circle with an opening at one point. The components are austere and yet evoke a direct, simple response.
Yes, they ask for involvement as the spectator walks through or just meditates on the spaces and forms.
Bayer's Earth Mound relates to the mountains as well as the architecture.
Way back in the early 40s, Bayer said he saw mountains as forms reduced to sculptural surfaces. He managed to unify many diverse elements, but was content to let the viewer invent his own experience rather than analyze his surroundings.
This is a collaborative project between 2 artists, Penny Kaplan and Carolee Thea. It's called Ceremonial Conjecture, and it's a trench that winds through a field behind the Morris Museum in New Jersey.
It can be regarded as an extension of the labyrinth or meander motif.
Yes, it evokes vestiges of many ancient man-made structures. It's more concerned with modern man's subconscious responses to symbols of the earth and ritualistic movements within the earth.
The dirt that was dug from the trenches was used to build those 2 mounds.
That was an integral part of the design.
And at the end of the project, which lasted a whole year, the trenches were filled in with the same earth that had been removed.
And the site was returned to its original natural condition.
But the change of seasons, the weather, the time of day, and the laws of nature determined the various perceptions for the viewers.
A marvelous changing panorama for the staff of the museum, as well as the visitors. In this Utah desert, Nancy Holt set up 4 cast concrete cylinders, each 18 feet long, and arranged them so the open ends frame the solstice and equinox points on the horizon.
She calls them sun tunnels. She got the idea while she was in the desert contemplating the rising and setting sun.
Yes, then Holt bored some holes in the tops of the cylinders. They correspond to the star constellations in the heavens.
So sunlight shines through the holes and creates daytime constellations on the interiors.
And we see star patterns during the day and also orient ourselves on the Earth and in space. James Turrell probably has the most ambitious project of all. He's actually sculpting into an extinct volcano in Arizona with a series of tunnels, passages, stairways, and chambers to create multiple events of sunlight and moonlight.
He even has rooms for viewing astronomical and atmospheric conditions.
Turrell bought the volcano and has been working on it since 1979.
Some chambers will have openings aligned with celestial events and will function as pinhole cameras, projecting astronomical images onto the walls.
One will be able to peer out from some interior spaces and observe solstices, equinoxes, moonrises, sunrises.
From deep within the bottom of the crater, we'll be able to view celestial reality as more than an aesthetic phenomenon. We'll experience the sublime majesty of the skies.
It won't be completed until sometime in the 1990s, but it will be a masterpiece of exact calculation and one of the wonders of the world.